Hello everyone, welcome back to the channel, and today I got a different video in mind. Usually I do the versus battles or whatnot, but today I decided to do a little bit different. I decided to see what if Ryu was in the Narutoverse, or at least how would I put Ryu in the Narutoverse, or a Ryu-like character in the Narutoverse. So this is going to be part one of multiple parts, so if you guys enjoy this kind of content, give me another character suggestion and I could keep doing this with the Narutoverse. I chose the Narutoverse because I think it's a little bit more interesting, because if I did it with like Dragon Ball, then most characters would just, be in space and get attacked by Frieza's empire. That's probably how it'd go. So let's jump right into it and we'll see how this video does. I'm here with the knowledge that most of you know who Ryu is and know a bit of his backstory. So who is he in the Narutoverse? How can we fit him in this universe? Well, first of all, he'd have to be a taijutsu specialist. That's pretty obvious, along the lines of Might Guy and Rock Lee. And he lives in the Hidden Leaf Village. He competed in the Second Great Ninja War. Now, of course, we're going to try to scale regular Ryu to the series, and I've established before that Ryu's kind of multi-continental to continental, which is crazy. So this would put Ryu in that Bijou tier, definitely above the Sanin, probably around those guys to be safe. So how do we fit something like the Hadouken in Naruto? Well, you could obviously just say it's chakra. So in the same way Kabuto can make a chakra blade, I think it'd be pretty cool if Ryu could kind of make a chakra sphere that he can fire from a distance. Kind of like Sakura and Tsunade, but this time he could fire it from a distance. And he also have fire style, where he could use it to power up his Shoryuken, which is just basic taijutsu. Now that we got who he is and what he can do down, let's go over his history before part 1 of Naruto. So obviously, like I said before, he competed in the Second Great Ninja War. He helped the Leaf Village throughout many battles, and he could have had battles with all sorts of people like the Raikage and Hanzo. Those would be pretty dope to see, Ryu versus the Raikage. As we know, in Street Fighter, Ryu's kind of to himself. He doesn't really take any pupils or anything like that, so it makes sense that he wouldn't have a 3-man squad in the future. He'd just be like a huge high-ranking Jonin that protects the third Hokage and all that jazz. He doesn't really have a team. So why a high-ranking Jonin and not flat out an Anbu? Well, it's not really his style. We know in the games that Ryu's very honorable. He's very, likes to do one-on-one combat, and the Anbu just doesn't seem like his kind of thing. Now obviously he fought a lot during the Great War, having most battles under his belt. He'd even volunteer just to fight in these battles. It's kind of his addiction is battling. We see that the Satsui no Hado is all about that. It craves combat. So Ryu would actually volunteer to go to these battles, unlike most shinobi who would either be forced to or feel like it's their duty to. Later on, it'd be pretty cool if Hiruzen asked Ryu why it is that he does all this, with Ryu not really having an answer yet. He's kind of kept it to himself. Now that we kind of have the background out of the way, we can look at what happened at the start. So basically, right before part 1 is the attack of the Nine Tails. He would have been an immense help. Obviously, the reason Nine Tails and Obito had such success is because none of the Sannin were in the village. So having somebody who's Sannin tier or above would be really good. Aside from Minato and Hiruzen, I would see him as the strongest member of the village. He would heavily reduce the casualties met by the Nine Tails and help the village have a way easier time. I think that his sheer power alone would have probably made less hatred towards the Nine Tails than there was, because it wouldn't have the chance to cause as much damage. Now, I do think that Minato's death is certain, regardless if someone that is Sannin tier is there or not. He'd probably be helping Hiruzen the entire time, and he'd be way too occupied to help Minato, so Minato would still have to sacrifice himself, and we'd still continue with the same story so far. I think it's safe to say that Ryu would leave the village shortly after. I think that Ryu would not agree with the tactics of the Leaf Village, considering they've done some shady stuff, and him being a high ranking of the village, he'd probably know a lot of these things and just choose to stay silent and leave. He'd travel the world and train and fight all sorts of shinobi across the lands, including Zabuza, Kisame, Hidan, just all these characters that are floating about. Hell, it'd be pretty cool to see him fight a tailed beast, someone like Han. Maybe fight him in his tailed beast state would be pretty damn cool. As far as the story goes, I think we wouldn't be told of this guy until the Chunin exams arc, after Hiruzen is killed by Orochimaru. After Orochimaru invades the Chunin exams and Hiruzen falls to his hands, the village would be looking for a candidate to be the Hokage, and who better than Ryu? Now, I know what you're thinking. Why not Jiraiya or Tsunade as they originally presumed? Well, first of all, Ryu's stronger than Tsunade in this version. Tsunade is also kind of gone. She's down there in, I forgot the city's name, but she's kind of in her own little world, so it'd be way easier to go find this guy and bring him to the village than to convince Tsunade to be the Hokage. As far as Jiraiya goes, it's pretty clear that Jiraiya didn't want the position in the first place, and secondly, Ryu's just a damn nice dude. They would want someone like him as Hokage over, the pervy sage. There will be one guy who opposes this decision, and that guy is Danzo. Now, Danzo and Ryu have completely different mindsets. One of them is about being shady in the darkness, and the other one is really honorable. So you could already see kind of the dilemma between the two characters. I think Danzo should have been introduced way earlier in the story and should have been more of a threat in original Naruto. So we're going to try to fit that in here. Personally, I feel like Danzo was added at random in Shippuden. He didn't feel like he was always there in the story. He always came across as forced to me. So introducing him this early would be cool. I think the thing about this arc is that Danzo would order high-ranking Anbu members that are under his wing to kill Ryu before Jiraiya and Naruto can recruit him as the Hokage. If there's another thing I would change about this arc is that Naruto shouldn't be going with Jiraiya alone. Sasuke and Sakura should definitely join in when it comes to finding Ryu. This is an important mission, and I can find so many comedic ways of Sasuke and Sakura hearing that Naruto's going on a mission and they're all like, "You're trying to go without us? That's not a chance." And it'd also be pretty cool for Jiraiya to take care of a squad of 3, and I think it'd be pretty cool if we also got parallels between Jiraiya teaching these 3 and taking these 3 on a mission the same way he took care of Nagato, Pain, and Konan. More importantly to me though is that this will give Jiraiya a direct view of Naruto and Sasuke's relationship. That way when Naruto's talking about bringing him back and all that nonsense, you can see why Jiraiya believes in Naruto, why he believes Naruto can do this, because he's already taken care of both of them together and he's seen how they interact together. Now, I haven't touched on it yet, but Ryu still has the Satsui no Hado, a dark power deep within him that thirsts for combat. That's essentially what it is in the Street Fighter series, but I think it's important to establish the difference between the Satsui no Hado and Naruto's Nine Tails. That's why it doesn't have to look so similar. While the Nine Tails has a thirst on destruction, the Satsui no Hado has a thirst on combat and victory. It's obsessed with it. The Nine Tails hurts its friends and attacks anyone in their vicinity, while the Satsui no Hado is laser focused on the target, almost like some kind of berserker state. To explain away why Ryu has the Satsui no Hado, it's a very rare combat disease kind of thing that only comes once in a generation, just like the previous story. I can imagine Ryu's first fight scene being a bunch of these Anbu soldiers that come and try to kill him. It'd be pretty dope because if you remember, during this point of the series, the Anbu were considered a pretty big deal, so seeing Ryu ragdoll these guys in his dojo would be pretty darn cool. Maybe a Hadouken through the wall to one of them and Shoryuken through the roof. Just really show off his moveset here. Obviously, I think he wouldn't kill all of them since the arc would end, so there's far too many of them and Ryu has to escape. So basically, the arc consists of the characters trying to find Ryu and avoid the Anbu soldiers since there's far too many of them. During this arc, we get Naruto still learning the Rasengan, Sasuke getting hints of Danzo, that way we can start building it up for Shippuden, and Sakura meeting her soon-to-be sensei, Ryu. I was also thinking and playing with the idea of a mass Danzo to take matters into his own hands since he knows how powerful Ryu is, and maybe the climax could be a poisoned and weakened Ryu versus this mass Danzo, and just like in the original, Naruto comes for the save with the Rasengan to defeat him and send him away. He'd obviously get away since we have to build up for Shippuden. Again, I think taking the Land of Waves approach of meeting other ninja would have been really cool. Maybe we even get to see some rock ninja from the Tsuchikage's village, and they start having battles with these Anbu and the good guys, so you kind of have this three-way battle going on. Let's just build up the world more like the Land of Waves arc did and the Chunin exams did. Of course, after the arc concludes, Ryu gladly accepts the Hokage position and takes Sakura under his wing. Get it? Sakura? Like Street Fighters Sakura. Anyways, he does that and reaches the top of the village and leads. So what about Tsunade though? Personally, I believe she'd still make it back in the story, just a lot later than you think. We will get to that in the future. So there's kind of part 1 of my idea of Ryu in the Narutoverse. That is covering part 1, of course. I will make a part 2 for Shippuden. If it's too long, I will have to do a part 3 for the second half of Shippuden, kind of like the war arc. But that's it. So, thank you guys for watching. How'd you feel about this content? Should I go even more detail with these videos? Because I don't know if you guys want them to be even longer, but just let me know in the comment section below. Thank you guys so much.